Special thanks to EA for sponsoring this video. So, Battlefield 2042 has officially launched as of yesterday, and with it, thousands of players have joined the ranks to see what this installment of the Battlefield franchise has to offer. The game has certainly changed quite a bit since previous titles in the series, there's no denying that, and after clocking 40 hours of game time during the early access week, I think I can safely say that I've got a pretty strong grasp on the gameplay loop and meta, and some of the nuances you can make use of right now to get the most out of the game as it stands. So, g'day there once again viewers, this is your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today we're going to be going through 30 essential tips and tricks to playing Battlefield 2042 at launch. And just before we get into the tips and tricks here today guys, the video for the most part is going to be transferable for both console and PC players of the game. Admittedly, there will be a couple of PC focused tips because that's my platform of choice, but for the most part, this stuff will apply to all platforms the game is available on. In addition guys, I do want to do a video more focused on assessing the wider state of the game later in the week because I think it's a very important topic to discuss, and some of the thoughts that I shared in my first impressions video that we released a week ago when I only had like 8 to 12 hours worth of gameplay have definitely changed, and I feel like I need to get that video out for you guys as well. But for today, I know there's a lot of you who are just getting into the game today for the first time and are enjoying it despite some teething problems, so I wanted to do this video to give everyone a rundown from core basics to some more in-depth stuff that even I only just learned about, so hopefully there's something new here for everyone to learn in regards to playing Battlefield 2042. Let's get into the tips and tricks here. Tip number 1, and this is going to be our first PC exclusive tip here, but it's an important one. Make sure before you even load into your first match, you go into the settings, navigate to mouse and keyboard, and turn on raw mouse input. This will ensure that you'll have the most accurate mouse input while playing the game, which is important for a first-person shooter. Tip number 2. Okay, now you're loading into your first game, and you've got some choices to make regarding your loadout and your specialist. As far as your initial specialist choice is concerned, Angel or Angel is a very safe bet as he can safely resupply allies and himself with armor and ammo, and he can also call in a loadout crate for him and his team to change loadouts with on the fly. He also has an ability to revive any teammate on the battlefield, and doing so will grant them 20 armor to get back into the fight with. He's a great asset to have, especially in all-out warfare, and even so in Hazard Zone if that's more your speed, and if you're struggling for kills when you start out, his ability will still give you plenty to do and earn some experience with. Tip number 3. Speaking of revives, when you are going for a revive, you do not need to be right on top of the downed ally. There can be a bit of distance between you and your patient. The point is, use this to stay in cover if the option is available. Going for a revive is all well and good and all, but it helps no one if both of you end up dead. Tip number 4. In addition to that, by default, you do not need to hold down the revive button to continue the revive. You only need to press the revive button to get it started, and that's it. Keep your hands free to do other stuff, gamers. Should you wish to change these settings to set it so that you have to hold the button to continue the revive, you can do so in the options menu. Tip number 5. As you're starting out in the game, I also recommend taking a look at Irish if you find yourself having to traverse open fields and spaces. Battlefield 2042's maps have a lot of open ground to cover, and there'll be times where you'll have to hoof it on foot with no vehicle. Irish's deployable cover goes a long way at not only fortifying key objectives, but also open areas if you come under fire. It may not be the most exciting ability, but it has saved me on multiple occasions. He also spawns in with extra armor, which gives you a little bit more leeway as you learn how to manage gunfights. Tip number 6. Weaponry-wise, the M5A3 and the PBX45 are both excellent weapons to get yourself acquainted to the game with. Both are incredibly adaptable and are pretty easy to use as a base package, and will carry you a decent way through the progression to unlock new weapons with. Tip number 7. However, get ready to burst fire. Battlefield, as a franchise, has always had spread mechanics on its weapons, and at the time of making this video, Battlefield 2042 has its spread mechanics dialed to 11. It's a bit too harsh in my opinion. So, start learning to tap fire because mag dumping into opponents will see you get no kills from time to time. Tip number 8, and I'm only including this because I only just discovered it a mere couple of hours before making this video, which annoyed the hell out of me. The G57, aka the default sidearm, has a burst fire mode that you can trigger by pressing V on PC or by pressing down on the D-pad on console while aiming down sights. If you're wondering why some people were murdering you with that pistol, that's why. Use it to great effect. Tip number 9. By now, you have probably tried to throw a grenade or two. Pressing the grenade button will get the grenade out of your inventory, but then you'll have to press your fire button once again to actually throw the grenade. Should you prefer the way older games did it, you can switch this by going to Options, Settings, Mouse and Keyboard, On Foot, and then scroll down to the Quick Grenade setting, where in which you can set it to throw your grenade as soon as you hit the grenade button on your keybind. Tip number 10. Alright, obviously you're going to want to rank up quickly and earn as much gear as possible. Some of the most efficient ways to grind XP at this stage is using the deployable ammo and health crates where groups of allies are sitting. At some point, everyone's going to need ammo, so ammo is arguably the more efficient way, but if you want to play a more medical approach, then the health pack is also a great way to get some bonus XP under your belt. Tip number 11, there are also ribbons you can earn mid-game by completing certain actions to earn XP bonuses at the end of a game. You can keep track of which ribbons you have earned during the match and which ones you need more progress towards by opening up your scoreboard. This can be done by holding tab or the options menu on console to get an overview of your progress and where you can go further. Tip number 12, at rank 22 you will also unlock the proximity sensor for the grenade slot, which on the breakthrough game mode in particular is a huge XP farming tool. You'll earn both XP for spotting and assist XP for every kill someone gets on a target you spotted. Run these and thank me later, you'll progress much faster. Tip number 13, as you begin unlocking attachments for your weapons, you'll be able to choose from which of them appear on your plus menu. Attachments that you put in the slot closest to the center on each attachment category will be the one you spawn in with at the start of a match with that weapon. Any adjustments you make to your weapon with the plus system after that will remain between lives until you switch back again and will also be reset to default at the start of each match. Tip number 14, as you continue unlocking attachments, you'll get access to a few hybrid scopes with multi-zoom capabilities or secondary sights mounted on top. To change between these scopes, press the F key on mouse and keyboard or the right analog stick on console while aiming down sights. It took me a bit to work this out, so I figured I would highlight it here in this video. Tip number 15, obviously vehicles are a core element of a Battlefield game, which means that you're going to need to deal with them frequently. First things first, regular old frag grenades can cause damage to vehicles should worse comes to worse. And at times, your little old frag grenade might be what's needed here just to finish off the job, so don't forget that. Tip number 16, vehicles in this game can also have certain parts damaged or disabled for a brief moment in time. An MBT, for example, can have its treads damaged for reduced mobility or its turret damaged for reduced traverse speed. Target these particular components depending on the situation to isolate vehicles and gain an upper hand. For example, if you're in a tank duel and you're circling your opponent, it might be a good play to disable the turret so you can outmaneuver their turret and avoid getting hit by them. Just a thought. Tip number 17, the mil dots on the M5 recoilless rocket launcher sight are scaled properly in increments of 100 meters. And if you want to engage a target at range, you can use your ping system to get a reading on the exact distance and then compensate for that using the mil dots on your sight. This is an effective way to hit a vehicle at any range, depending on lead and whether the vehicle is stationary, stuff like that. Tip number 18. So how about using vehicles yourself? Obviously you can spawn directly into a vehicle should one be available from the spawn menu, but Battlefield 2042 also has a vehicle call-in system that you can use by pressing B on mouse and keyboard or both your bumper buttons on your controller. You can use this system to spawn yourself a transport vehicle or an armored vehicle should one be available, and this is particularly useful if the fight has moved on across the map and you're stuck with a long run ahead of you. Tip number 19, you can also use the call-in system to deploy a Ranger Robo-Dog. Whenever you have the opportunity to do so, you should definitely be making use of this asset as they are pretty tanky at the moment and can dish out some serious firepower. Tip number 20, always go down with the ship. There's nothing more annoying than ditching a vehicle because you think it's about to go up in flames, only to have it stolen by the enemy team and then used against you for the rest of the match. Do yourself a favor, just go down with the ship. You've probably earned enough kills anyway to counterbalance your KD. Your team will send you less expletives this way if you always go down with the ship. Tip number 21, you can be shot out of the cockpit of any vehicle that sports an open window or viewport in this game. So in these vehicles, try to stay as mobile as possible or angle away from direct infantry fire where possible. Tip number 22, all vehicles in Battlefield 2042 have the ability to auto repair themselves while out of combat, but the repair tool is in a league of its own right now. Having a dedicated engineer loadout with a repair tool for vehicle ops will keep your vehicle alive a lot longer and reduce downtime between engagements when you're damaged. The same goes for gunners. If you're going to be gunning in a vehicle and you're running with a squad mate in a vehicle, run a repair tool. It will help you out a lot. Tip number 23, on the flip side, you can use armor-piercing ammunition on certain weapons to stop vehicle auto-repairs from kicking in. It's not too great at causing meaningful damage, but it can stall vehicles from actually starting a repair, which can be kind of what's needed to come out on top at times. Tip number 24, in aircraft, preserve your flares for when a missile has actually been launched at you. Launching flares prior to a lock being secured or a missile being fired will disable the lock for a few seconds, yes, but that still gives the enemy an opportunity to just reacquire the lock and fire their missile, leaving you defenseless. Wait for the third tone and the missile incoming warning to be issued for you to get the most out of your countermeasures. Tip number 25. If the third tone appears out of nowhere in an aircraft, it's most likely a Sundancer's anti-armor grenade lock. Pretty much all aircraft can outrun these projectiles, so there's no need to burn a countermeasure if you suspect this is what is incoming. Tip number 26, if you're playing as the Specialist Navin Rao, your hack ability will disable vehicles from using all of their abilities and weapons for a short period of time, should you get a successful hack off. If there's a helicopter really giving you a hard time, you can use this in combination with a couple of AA lock-on launchers to knock them out before they can deploy countermeasures. Tip number 27, if you're playing as a Battlefield Portal mode without the plus system enabled, you need to place the attachments that you want active on your weaponry as you spawn in the slot closest to the center in the collection menu, similar to how you would in All Out Warfare. Tip number 28, and now we're just going to go over a couple of nuanced tips for a couple of specialists. Sundancer's wingsuit is a ton of fun that lets you traverse the map extremely quickly. In saying that though, try not to hit the ground at maximum velocity. Even while wingsuiting, it can damage you if you hit the ground too fast. Tip number 29, Irish also has a second gadget in his operator unique ability slot that acts sort of like a trophy system. Now, while you can't attach this trophy system to vehicles like you can in, say, Warzone, you can place it down nearby to help assist in defending from some incoming fire. So if you're in a tank and you find a nice spot to just simply set up and lob some shells down onto a control point below, consider running Irish and making use of his gadget here. It's actually quite helpful. And finally, tip number 30, Falk's Surette pistol only needs one shot to heal an ally to max health. You don't need to repeatedly hit them to get them up to max health. So save your shots for where you can and for other allies that may need it more urgently. But there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, my personal 30 tips and tricks for getting into and playing Battlefield 2042 and making the most of your experience in the game as it is right now. Obviously, this list could change as new content and meta changes and balancing changes are made over time, but it is what it is. We'll stick with this as it stands right now. If you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to backhand the like button. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. And if you are brand new to the channel and you want to see more, consider hitting subscribe. We're going to be doing a lot of coverage of a lot of the first-person shooter games that are coming out over the next few weeks or so. And as I said at the start of the video, we are also going to be talking about the state of Battlefield 2042 in a few videos' time, because I feel as though there are definitely some things that need to be addressed that have sort of come a bit more to light to me since my first impressions video. If you feel like I missed anything, leave a comment down below with a tip that you have from playing Battlefield 2042. And if you want to support the channel even further, consider a channel membership, because that does go a long way in helping me out as well. Once again, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. Peace out, and I will see you guys all in the next one. Take care, guys. Have a good one.